Hi everyone. So we talked a little bit in the last video you watched about finding newspaper articles related to your topics. Today I want to talk about the second major assignment you guys have, the History Matters assignment, where you're going to be looking for sources to support your particular topic. So I want to start by looking a little bit at the library homepage, pointing out some things here for you, and then going into some other places that you might want to look for information. The first thing I want to point out on the library homepage is this off-campus login button. For those of you who might be working off campus this semester, I would suggest anytime you're going to search through the library that you start with that off-campus login button. That will prompt you to log in with your Clarkson username and password, and then it should, for the rest of that research session, it should remember that you're a Clarkson person, and then you won't get prompted to log in every time you try to log in. So every time you try to view a resource, a book, or an article. So I would suggest starting there before you do anything else. The next thing I want to point out is on the home page, you'll see it defaults to this almost everything for this homepage search, but you can select just articles, books, or journals if you wish. The reason this says almost everything is because it searches many of our article databases, but not all of them. If you want to see which databases are being searched from this homepage search, you can click on this Learn More About WorldCat Discovery, and it will give you a list of the databases that are being searched as part of that almost everything search. If a database that you want to use is not being searched, or you prefer to search in the individual databases, you can get to a full list of the databases we have access to down here under Databases, and we will talk a little bit in a few minutes about which databases might be appropriate for your topics. I also want to point out this research guide link. This will take you to guides that we have put together on specific topics, for specific classes, etc. And we have a few that might be relevant to you guys that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Last but not least, I want to point out this advanced search option. For the kind of research you guys are doing, I would very rarely suggest using the homepage search. I would suggest going to this advanced search, which we'll talk about a little more in a few minutes. It gives you much more control over your searching and allows you to do some more sophisticated searching. Okay, so if you click on the research guides page here that I spoke about, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. You may want to look at subject guides and course guides. And in particular, I wanted to point out under course guides, there's this history of medicine and public health. It may have some materials that might be relevant to you. You'll also see we have a one for the upper level humanities and social sciences research seminar course that might have some relevant materials. So I would suggest maybe taking a look at some of these depending on exactly what your topic is, and it may help point you in the right direction of some information that will be useful to you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how to find scholarly peer-reviewed sources. So this will go back to the databases and looking for journal articles. I'm guessing many of you are familiar with the peer review process, but if you're not, I thought I'd do a quick review and make sure we're all on the same page when I use that phrase peer review. Okay, so peer review refers to a process that journal articles go through when a scholar has written up a journal article about their research and is trying to publish it. It goes through usually a head editor at the paper or at the journal first, and that person is going to make sure that at least it's relevant to the journal, that it's potentially something that they might want to publish on. But assuming it makes it through that initial screen, it goes to a panel of peer reviewers who are other experts on the topic. And they're going to look at it for everything from grammar and readability to the accuracy and methodology of the underlying study. And they're basically going to be vetting it for quality. Okay. Often they will send it back to the author for basically for revision, and the author will then resubmit it. They'll look at it again, and sometimes it'll go through that process multiple times. Okay. Assuming it then is selected for publication, it will be published in the journal, and then libraries, in this case Clarkson's library, will subscribe to those journals to give you access. Okay, so when we talk about peer review, we're talking about something that has gone through this process, and it's generally a marker of quality, which is why often your professors will ask that you find scholarly peer-reviewed materials. So where do you find scholarly peer-reviewed materials? We can find them in academic databases. If you go from the library homepage, you click on that databases link that I showed you at the beginning, it will take you to this page. You can do a search if you happen to know the name of a database that you want to use. You can also click on the letters at the right or left hand, at the right hand side if you know a name. Or if you're not sure, you can click on a subject type and it will give you a list of the databases that we are suggesting for that subject area. So for you guys, most likely history, humanities, potentially. Okay. Here are some specific databases that you may want to take a look at, but there are certainly others, so I would recommend that you spend a few minutes poking around in here. But these are definitely some that I thought I'd call out and highlight for you guys. Arts and Humanities Citation Index. Hein Online has a lot of government data and information. Humanities and Social Sciences Index, JSTOR, ProQuest Research Library, U.S. History Collection, and Springer. Those are potentially all going to be useful for you. Okay. Some of these will also be searched from the library homepage. So if you do a search through our, it's called a federated search. If you do a search through there, some of these will be searched, some will not. So you'll want to keep that in mind as well. And remember, you can click on that link on the homepage to see which databases are being searched. So you'll remember I suggested you use the advanced search rather than searching on the simple search on the homepage. That will search the same content, but it will give you a much more sophisticated interface for your searching. And this is what that looks like. And I just want to highlight a few things here. So first is the search index box, and this will give you a drop down. You'll see on the right hand side an example of the kind of stuff that you will see in this drop down. And I specifically want to highlight keyword and subject. Okay, keyword will get you a broader search. So it will search various locations in the record or within the resource itself. Subject is only going to search the subject field, and we'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by subject field in a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight that these are two of your options on this drop-down menu, okay? Generally speaking, you're probably going to want to do a keyword search since it's broader. It's going to search more locations, and you also don't have to be exactly correct in your terminology for the field, okay? Next, I want to highlight this drop-down menu over here that starts with and. It gives you options for and, or, and not. And is going to find only records that have both the search terms you've put in. Okay, or is going to find either or. So and will get you fewer results, but they should be more targeted. Or will get you more results, but they're going to be broader. Or is really good for looking for synonyms. Okay. And then last but not least is the not. And that's not always relevant, but when it is, it can be really helpful because it can help you eliminate some material. So if you're finding a lot of things that are technically relevant to what you searched, but are not what you want, you can use that not to eliminate those kinds of results. I use that sometimes for geography. So if somebody's doing research on Latin America and you're finding a bunch of stuff on, say, Brazil, you can put not Brazil and get rid of all those results about Brazil. So it's a way of eliminating results so that you don't have to spend the time to go through them. So here's what that actually looks like. So again, I'll highlight a few things. You'll see I've set all of these to keyword. Usually it defaults to keyword, title, and author. If you have it as title, it's only going to find stuff that has this in the title, which is not what I want, right? I'm looking for it as a keyword, so I set these to keyword. You'll see I've also used or over here in my search box to search for synonyms or related concepts. So not only can you use the and the or in the drop-down menus, you can include them in your search boxes. So here I've done bubonic plague or Yersinia pestis, which is the name of the parasite or the bacteria, I believe it's a bacteria, that causes bubonic plague. So I want to search for either or because either way might give me relevant results, right? Similarly, down here, I've thought about synonyms or related concepts that might get me what I want, and I've used that or in between them. You'll see down here I've used not. So if I'm looking for more recent outbreaks of bubonic plague, I might not want, and I might find a lot of stuff about the Black Death because that's one of the more commonly studied. I can put not, and I can get rid of any sources that talk about the Black Death. Okay. This is what your search results are going to look like. You're going to get basically a list of results that are going to have a few things that I want to highlight here. One is this view ebook button, okay, and that will take you out to the full text if we have it. But if we have it in print, it will also include a call number for you, Right now, because we are still working remotely, print materials are a little bit complicated, but if you click on the title and come into what we call the record, you'll see this resource delivery request button. You can click on that and we will mail you the print item. In this case, where we have it as an ebook, I would strongly recommend you just use the ebook copy if at all possible, okay, since we have both. But I wanted to highlight what both of those options will look like for you, okay? For an article, you're going to want to look for something that says view full text or view PDF. Somewhere, depending on what database you're in, it's going to have something that looks like that. It might not be in exactly the same spot, but you'll see a link that says something about a PDF or full text. You'll want to click on that to get the full text of your article. Okay. The next thing that I want to highlight is the subject field. So if you click on the title so that you go into the record, you'll see on the right-hand side here, if I scroll down to view description, I will get a list of subjects related to that article. And this is really useful for a couple of reasons. Okay, for one thing, it will help me figure out what the core topics are of this article. So if I can't tell just from the title whether it's going to be on point or not, I can come up in here and see the subjects, and that will tell me that something is a core topic of this article or this book. Okay, so I will know it's not just going to be mentioned in passing, it's going to be a focus of the book. Okay, the other advantage is if I'm just getting started on a topic, I might not know what the terms of art or the jargon for the industry are or for the topic are. This is where I can find that information out. Okay, so I come in here and I steal search term ideas often, especially when it's a topic I'm not familiar with upfront. So I might come in here and I might see what search terms they've used, either to use the professional wording or just to get ideas for things that I didn't think of. So I didn't think to include epidemic in my search, but perhaps I want to do that now. I hadn't thought about searching things like industrialization or urbanization. That might be another way to get at that poverty issue, or to make a more focused search. So maybe I want to focus in specifically on poverty in urban areas. Might not be a bad idea to include those phrases in my search. So now I can go back and I can use the ideas that I got here for a more specific search. Okay, so that's something that I use a lot. I steal ideas from subjects a lot. Another thing that I wanted to point out is I meant to have a slide for this. A couple of other ideas that you can use. One is you can add an asterisk at the end of a phrase and it will give you alternate endings. So if you did plague with an asterisk after the E, you get plague, plagues, plagued. It helps you find those alternate endings without having to type them all out. But also putting quotation marks around phrases will search those words together. So if I don't have quotation marks around Black Death, it'll look for black and death separately rather than as one phrase or one concept. So including those quotation marks will get you more relevant, more targeted searching. So those are some other tips and tricks that you can have up your sleeve. Okay. I also wanted to touch on gray literature. So we've kind of been talking about scholarly literature and peer review, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's not peer reviewed that's still good quality. So often where government documents are considered gray literature, there also might be stuff published by academics or business or industry that are still quality and useful but are not peer reviewed, so they're not considered scholarly literature. Theses and dissertations would be examples of this, conference papers often, government documents, as I mentioned, technical reports, clinical trials, etc. So depending on exactly what the requirements are for your assignment, sometimes you might find really good information from these sources even though they're not peer reviewed, especially government information. So just like to highlight that those options are out there. For finding government information, we have a couple of really good options that I want to highlight. One is Hein Online, which is a database that you have access to through the library. You can do a search from their search box, or you can go into specific collections that they've curated. So that's one source for government documents. Another way I really like to look for government documents, because the challenge is finding them, is to do a Google search. If you type in cite:.gov and then your topic, so here I did cite:.gov Spanish flu and race, it will search only .gov domains. So you'll see all of my results in my results list end in .gov. The challenge with government documents is finding them. Not all government stuff, unfortunately, is compiled in the same location. So you often have to do a lot of poking around from different government website to find a lot of data. This is one of my workarounds for getting a lot of government data without having to go to a whole bunch of different locations. So I would definitely recommend thinking about this if you think you might want government data. Then, since it's a Google search, you'll still have to do a vet. You'll still want to make sure this is a real government website, that it's a reliable source, and that it's an appropriate source for your assignment. But it will help you get government information quickly and a little more easily than trying to go to a bunch of different government sites. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind if you think you might use government data. I also wanted to highlight how to link your Google Scholar with our library. So if you go into your Google Scholar and click on the little pancake menu and then settings and library links, you can do a search for Clarkson University libraries. Make sure that it's selected and hit save. What that will do, oops, apparently I didn't have a screenshot. It will add on your results list to the right-hand side, it will add a link that says find it at Clarkson U. Okay, and that's a way of telling if we have access to it at Clarkson and getting access quickly through a click right from Google Scholar. You don't have to go out into the library databases and do another search. You can work right from Google Scholar. So it's a really nice, easy way of linking the library to your Google Scholar if you prefer to use a Google Scholar search. Okay, we also have an interlibrary loan option, which for the kind of assignment you guys are doing might be useful. It does take a couple days maybe for articles, sometimes a little bit longer for a book. So you know, if you're doing last minute research, it might not be useful, but if you are planning ahead, we can get materials for you that we don't have immediate access to. So even if we don't own it, we can probably borrow it from another library. So for example, instead of seeing held by Clarkson University here, you see how it says held by other libraries worldwide? That means we don't own a copy. However, you'll see here there's this request item through interlibrary loan button. If you click on that, you can request the item through interlibrary loan, and we'll try to get our hands on it for you and get a copy for you, okay? So even if we don't have immediate access, it's probably still out there. We can probably still get it for you. So please keep that in mind as an option. And this is an easy, right from your search results, you'll see this request item through interlibrary loan option within the record for the item. So really easy. All you have to do is click on that button. It'll fill out the request for you and you can submit. You can also put in requests manually. So if you have, say, a book in front of you and you are looking at a citation and you really want to see if you can get that book, you can come into Help and Services on the library webpage and then click on Interlibrary Loan. You'll have to log in with your Clarkson username and password, but then you can manually put in the citation information that you have and get a request. This is also where you can come and check on the status of your requests. If you get an item electronically, so like a PDF of a journal article, you can come in here and retrieve it. So this is kind of the home of interlibrary loan through the library's website. Okay, so I wanted to highlight that for you. The other thing I highly suggest is, in addition to looking at the subjects, remember we talked about looking at those subjects when you find a good article. When you find a good article, see who cited it. This is really easy in Google Scholar. I've got a screenshot here. You can see it'll tell you it's been cited by some number of other articles. You can click on that in Google Scholar and it will give you a list of the articles that have cited this article, and you can see if you have access to them. Okay, so that's a really good way to get more material that might be related to your topic. And here's an example of what that Find It at Clarkson U button looks like in Google Scholar. Okay, so I definitely recommend when you find a good source, follow that citation chain if you can. Some of the academic databases have similar options. In this case, it's showing you the cited references in this article, and it's also giving you related records. So again, 2 ways to find more materials that are going to be on a similar topic. Okay, this is a screenshot from Web of Science. Okay, so look for that option in whatever database you're using. Not all have it, many do. Okay, so look for something like that that's going to let you click through to either other articles that cite this article or the reference list for this article, or view related records or something similar. Okay. Another really good idea is to look at the reference list from the article or the book that you found that you like. So if you really like a journal article that you found, see what their reference list is citing. okay, and then see if you can track it down. So for example, here I had found an article called Environment, Urbanization, and Public Health that talks about the 1912 bubonic plague epidemic. That's really like perfectly on target with what I wanted. So I come down, I look at the reference list, and I see this reference, and I want to see if I can find it. There are a few ways you can do that. One, you can go on our homepage and do a search for the title of the article, and you'll see I've put it in quotation marks. That'll make it more likely to turn up the actual title that I'm looking for if I use those quotation marks. So that's one way to look for it. If that doesn't find what you need, though, you can follow the citation, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So here's our full citation for that article that I want to find. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, on the home page, instead of using that Almost Everything tab, I'm going to use the Journals tab, and I'm going to put in the title of the journal that this article is in. In this case, it's in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So I'm going to put that in my Journals tab, and I'm going to do a search. And you'll see in my list of results, I found the Journal of the American Medical Association. I'm going to click on Access Journal. And then I'm going to continue to follow my citation. So now I'm going to look for the volume and the issue number right here. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for volume 54. So I'm going to scroll down on the home page of that journal that I found, and I'm going to find volume 54. Okay, there it is. So I click on it. And then I'm going to scroll through until I find number 22. And I might also look for the page number. This is the page number here. So that's what I actually had to do in this case, was I found where number 22 started, and then I scrolled through until I found the right page number, okay? And then my title should, if I've done everything right, my title should match, and it does. So I've actually gone and found this article from the reference list of the other article I found, okay? So often you can do that. You can chase down citations from one article to another, and that can be a really good way of taking advantage of the fact that somebody else has already done the research. Right? So if you have a really good article in front of you, they've already done a whole bunch of research for their article. Why not follow their research, take advantage of their research? Okay, so that's another option that you have. I'm not going to go into it into depth today, but I do want to let you know that you have Zotero as an option. Zotero is a citation management software that's free to you. Zotero.org if you just want to play with it, but basically it allows you to organize your information, save your citation information, and turn those that citation information into actual citations in Word or Google Docs. And if you have questions about that, you need help with that, that's something that I can offer support for. So feel free to reach out and let me know. Okay, last but not least, I want to make sure you've got my contact information. I did want to highlight during regular working hours, if one of us is available for chat, you'll see this online button, or it might say we're here. If that's there, you can try to chat with one of us and get some live immediate feedback and help, okay? But you can also always email us. lhoover@clarkson.edu is my personal email address, or you can email askalibrarian@clarkson.edu, which is our more generic email address that's checked by multiple people, okay? And then you can always check the research guides. Remember I mentioned we had some research guides that are might be relevant to you and your topic. You can get there from the homepage, Help and Services, and Research Guides. Okay, so that's another place you could check if you want some immediate information. But if you remember nothing else I talked about today, just remember you can reach out to me. We can set up a one-on-one meeting. We can have a Zoom meeting, and we can talk about your particular topic and your particular piece of information that you're trying to find, or the particular struggle that you're having. I'm happy to do that, and that's a big part of why we're here. So I hope this gives you at least enough to get started on your research. But as I mentioned, don't hesitate to reach out and sit down with me one-on-one if that would be helpful.